Shabbat Shalom, family, and happy Passover for those of you that are celebrating it this weekend. So, ladies and gentlemen, the UK hosted a Zoom meeting with 40 different leaders, and they were trying to come up with a way to get the Straits of Hormuz open. Now, it is still not open because some people claim it is open. It's not. The Iranians are pretty much controlling it. And I think it took, especially Donald Trump, by surprise. He didn't think they could, but they have full control over it. And everybody can't get in there. And they're panicking because, see, this war has gone on for 5 weeks already. And many countries only have about 90 days of reserve for their nation. And with 5 weeks going by, depending on how far they're into their 90 days, some of them will be in trouble if the Straits of Hormuz is not open. And so they are panicking. They're trying to find a way. And guess what they did? They excluded the US from the meeting. So 40 different countries came together on Zoom, and the US was excluded. And I want to bring this up because, y'all, this is how it's going to be from now on. These world leaders are going to come together, and the US will not be invited. This is the very beginning, and you can best believe this is going to happen over and over and over. They don't like Donald Trump. They don't want the US there. They don't want the US having all the say and having all the input. That people are tired of that. People are tired. And we know why they are tired. Number one, Donald Trump don't know how to talk to people. The last time I saw him overseas doing a speech, Donald Trump talked to people like everybody in the room is beneath him. That's how he comes off. And it sounds awful. And they said JD Vance do the same thing. JD Vance talked to these world leaders any old kind of way. See, people don't like that arrogance. They don't like how y'all want to always dominate everything. You don't know how to work with someone. You always think you should be the one dominating everything. And in many cases, you don't even have knowledge in what you're trying to dominate. And people are sick of that shit. They're sick of it. And y'all ain't gonna never stop doing it. That's the thing. Donald Trump is the embodiment of his community. That's what many of you act like. And folks, they're not putting up with it no more. I think the world has gotten to the point they are not putting up with your bad attitude, your bad talking, your arrogance, you coming in a room acting like you know better than everybody else. People are tired of that. Maybe that worked years ago, but we are in a whole different era. And America has bullied the entire world. And now people are trying to get rid of the bully. This is exactly what's happening. So this meeting definitely signifies America really truly is on her own. The world don't have your back. That's why Donald Trump is all upset that no ally sent their ships to come and help the US. He is outdone, that nobody wanted to help. That is what's supposed to happen to the US. See, good leadership would know how to sit down, negotiate, and work with other countries. Donald Trump don't know how to work with his own cabinet. Look at the people he's getting rid of. And I'm reading more people are going to go. Donald Trump don't even get along with his own cabinet. You expect him to get along with other nations and different people across the world? Come on. So the world is no longer putting up with America bullying them, and they're pushing back and they're saying no. And they're telling Donald Trump to get lost. And I even remember after Donald Trump threw Zelensky out of the White House, the EU said, if Donald Trump does not want to help Ukraine, they said they were going to mess up the US dollar. The EU said that they were going to come after the US dollar and mess it all up. So, you would never hear that kind of talk from other nations ever before, but you sure do now. So, nobody's got America's back. And that's why Marco Rubio and Donald Trump and um, they're talking about pulling out of NATO. Well, from what I understand, they can't just do that randomly. They really can't. But Donald Trump don't care about rules. He don't care about laws. He don't care about rules. He could care less if he wants to pull out, even if it's in a contract that says he can't just randomly pull out. He'll do it anyway. He doesn't care. This man don't respect no laws. But he claimed he's the law and order president. Yeah, a law and order president with felonies. Yeah, okay. So let's get into it, y'all, so you can get some insight on what happened during this meeting and, people chiming in about it. And yeah, people notice how, America's getting more and more isolated. All right, let me share my screen. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Thank you. Yeah, well, they said Donald Trump and Netanyahu cause gas prices to go up worldwide. Right now, there is no country that did not experience an increase in gas prices. All of this over a war, you know? And unfortunately, it's not going back down. It's not going to go back down. Thank you, everybody.
Britain accused Iran of holding the world's economy hostage as diplomats from more than 40 countries held talks on ways to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a vital shipping route that has been chalked off by the US-Israeli war against Iran. The United States did not attend the virtual meeting, which comes after President Donald Trump made clear that he thinks securing the waterway closed as a consequence of the US-Israeli war on Iran is not America's job. The UK Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper said the talks, which focuses on political and diplomatic rather than military means, showed the strength of the international determination. In the meantime, more than 36 countries, including the UK, France, Germany, and Italy, Canada, Japan, and the United Arab Emirates, have signed a statement demanding Iran stop its attempts to block the strait and pledging to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safety passage through the waterway. The meeting was also seeking actions that can guarantee the safety of 20,000 seafarers on 2,000 ships trapped by the...
In the last 24 hours, it says 25 vessels passed through the strait, which is an international shipping route that would normally see 150 vessels a day. There have been over 25 attacks on vessels in the strait, and there are some 20,000 trapped seafarers on some 2,000 trapped ships. We have seen Iran hijack an international shipping route to hold the global economy hostage. This is hitting the trading routes for Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi, Oman, Iraq, but that means liquid natural gas for Asia, fertilizer for Africa, and jet fuel for the world.
We begin with a question that's been driving fuel prices up and weighing on the minds of politicians since the early days of the war: how to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The strait is a vital shipping route in the Middle East, but it's been effectively blockaded by Iran. With hundreds of ships stranded on either side of the strait, oil, gas and diesel prices have risen sharply, leading Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper to condemn Iran for hitting global economic security. She said there's an urgent need to restore freedom of navigation through the strait.
In the last 24 hours, it says 25 vessels passed through the strait, which is an international shipping route that would normally see 150 vessels a day. There have been over 25 attacks on vessels in the strait, and there are some 20,000 trapped seafarers on some 2,000 trapped ships.
Across the strategic straits of the Middle East, tension is mounting as nations scramble to secure safe passage for critical energy shipments. Vessels carrying liquefied natural gas, LPG, and other vital products face not just rough seas, but high-stakes diplomacy that could determine who controls the flow of global energy. Over the past few days, 6 Indian-flagged ships have successfully navigated these dangerous waters.
Australia is just among a few countries that are taking part in this online round table that's been convened by Britain to decide how to deal with the fallout within hours of Donald Trump saying that he would send the Iranian regime back to the Stone Age. Strikes are continuing, like in Isfahan, where large explosions have been seen, and Karaj, where a bridge has been split in two after a US strike. Now, there are growing concerns that the Strait of Hormuz could be closed for some time. The French president has said it would be unrealistic to reopen it by force. Meanwhile, the Iranian regime is continuing with executions. Amnesty International says a number of people who took part in the January protest have been killed in recent days, including a teenager.
Stop satisfying yourself that everything is fine. It is not fine. Today is day 35 of the Iran war, and I need to tell you 5 things your media is not explaining properly. Number 1, yesterday, the United Kingdom convened an international meeting to discuss ways to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It included counterparts from over 40 countries, representatives from European countries, Canada, but not the US. This comes just a day after President Trump again said that the US should not bear the responsibility of opening the strait and called on other countries to do so. Think about that. 40 nations are sitting together, and America, the country that started this war on February 28th, is not even in the room. French President Emmanuel Macron said taking the Strait of Hormuz by force, as Trump suggested countries do, is unrealistic. No joint statement was issued. So 40 countries met and still no solution. Number 2, Iran has made a demand that could change the world economy forever. An Iranian official laid out a list of demands to end the war and added an item that hadn't been on Tehran's list before: recognition of Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian Parliament's Security Commission approved a plan to impose tolls on ships passing through the strait at a reported fee of $2 million per tanker that would translate to around $20 million a day, or about $600 million a month from oil alone. Iran has allowed only a handful of vessels from countries it deems friendly to pass through, mostly those flying flags of India, Pakistan, Malaysia, and China. Everyone else is locked out. Number 3, the April 5th OPEC Plus ministerial meeting is the most consequential since the alliance's formation. That is 2 days from now. Iraq and Kuwait have begun shutting in production not by choice, but because they physically cannot export through the strait. This means OPEC Plus production decisions are partially academic. The war is dictating actual supply, regardless of quotas. Standard Chartered Bank warned that the next OPEC Plus meeting on April 5th could result in abandonment of voluntary output cuts and compensation cuts. Either way, volatility is coming. Number 4, oil just spiked hard. The current price of Brent oil futures is $108.95, with today's trading range between 99.17 and 109.72. That is a $10 swing in a single day. The U.S. Energy Information Administration forecasts Brent crude will remain above $95 over the next 2 months before falling below $80 in the third quarter of 2026. But here is the problem. That forecast assumes the war winds down and Hormuz reopens. If it does not, prices could spike above 120. And if disruptions end suddenly, OPEC Plus will need to maintain significant cuts to prevent Brent falling below 70. Both directions are a cliff. There is no soft landing here. Number 5, silver is bleeding. Spot silver is trading at approximately $72.48 per ounce, down 6.9% in the latest session. Just 2 days ago, on April 1st, silver traded at $75.07 per ounce. Silver has had a pretty dramatic few weeks. After a strong run earlier in the year, prices dropped sharply in March, at one point falling more than 20%. Since then, it has been trying to steady itself, sitting roughly in the $65 to $75 range. According to Christopher Lewis, a precious metals analyst at FX Empire, a short-term downward correction is likely to continue, creating accumulation opportunities around the $70 mark. If you hold silver, you need to watch the $70 level very carefully, because if that breaks, the next support is way below. Now let me connect all 5 dots for you. 40 nations cannot agree on anything. Iran is building a permanent toll system on the most important oil route on Earth. OPEC meets in 2 days with no good options. Oil is swinging $10 a day, and silver is falling while everything else is on fire. This is not a normal week. This is the kind of week where the decisions made in the next 72 hours will determine the price you pay for gas, food, and everything else for the rest of this year. Follow Boring Currency Info right now, because Sunday's OPEC meeting could change everything overnight, and I will be the first one to break it down for you. Share this video with every single person you know who drives a car, buys groceries, or holds any investment. They need to see this before Sunday. And drop your prediction in the comments right now. Will Hormuz open before mid-April or not? I read every single comment. Go.
All right, the UK is building a coalition of more than 40 countries to push to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the president of France is responding to President Trump's criticism of NATO. Matt Finn joins us live from Dubai with the latest. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Brian, behind me is the Persian Gulf. Not too far back there is the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump has been warning that foreign countries that heavily rely on the strait need to take the lead against Iranian terror. Well, in London yesterday, 40 countries joined a virtual meeting to discuss the urgent need to diplomatically restore the flow on the Strait of Hormuz. The British foreign minister says Iran has recklessly hijacked.
The reality is, on the Straits of Hormuz, we are going to take that by force and keep it open for as long as we have to be there to keep it open. And that is why we appealed for assistance, because we have warships who are doing offensive operations. We have warships who are doing defensive operations. And obviously we can spare some to do some escorting through the straits. But we needed help for others to come. And obviously now they are coming, and they're coming by the scores. Now we're up to 30 countries that want to help. So that's going to be very important. And operationally, we know how to do this. And what we've systematically been doing for about 12 to 14 days is taking down Iran's capability to interdict our ships. And what am I talking about there? Eliminating the small boats and mines that are part of their arsenal, eliminating the drones that can reach them, eliminating the anti-strike missiles that Iran has on its territory, and going even further in depth into other ballistic missiles and short-range missiles that could also influence shipping. So,
all right, the UK is building a coalition of more than 40 countries to push to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the president of France is responding to President Trump's criticism of NATO. Matt Finn joins us live from Dubai with the latest. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Brian, behind me is the Persian Gulf. Not too far back there is the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump has been warning that foreign
Strait of Hormuz can be reopened, how we respond to these reckless Iranian attacks on international shipping.
And French President Macron has dismissed military operations to open the strait as, quote, unrealistic. And yesterday, Macron made some points
and interfere with things when things aren't exactly going their way. That cannot happen, in my view. What we have to do is open it up ourselves, and we have the capability to do that. There are well thought out plans to do that.
So you've seen these plans?
I understand in a general sense what it is. And those plans, the people in charge of them have a lot of confidence in doing it because they play war games and the like to do this sort of thing. We think we can absolutely accomplish that mission. And then at some point, we would pass it to allies and partners for them to continue to do it. We may have to give them a couple of assets that we have that uniquely that they may not have. But nonetheless, this is a very doable, and we certainly cannot leave Iran in control where they shut that down and open it up at will. That would change the Middle East and give them huge amount of influence. And that would be staggering after almost 2 months of taking all their offensive capability away from them and leave them as a huge geopolitical advantage, which that gives them.
Absolutely. And I know the president likes to bring up and give head fakes as part of his strategy, but when he said, I'm going to leave it to somebody else to open up, that's just not practical. And we can't declare victory with that Strait of Hormuz in their control. CNN has a report out today citing 3 intel officials that say half the drones remain, half the launchers remain, and the rockets on the coast of right by the Strait of Hormuz are intact.
Okay, so what they're talking about is Iran's defense is still intact. Now, Donald Trump has been on TV virtually every day saying they've been obliterated. They've been obliterated. And they said, over half of their launch pads are still there. And everything seems to be intact. But Donald Trump is all over the TV talking about, oh, it's nothing left. We took everything out. We obliterated everything. It's obliterated. You see what a big liar he is? They said Iran got a lot of stuff that's still intact. Their drones, their missiles, their launch pads, everything is still there. And at the same time, Donald Trump is telling the public here, it's nothing left. They're dead. They're dead. Oh, we obliterated this and we obliterated that. It's a lie. It's a lie. All right, let's go on.
The White House pushed back on that, but you at the Institute of Study of War and all your contacts, how do you feel about this? Where do you land on this?
Well, I've never seen, I read that report, and that flies in the face, I think, is what Central Command is telling us. And certainly we're much further along than that. The reality is that the last few weeks are harder. That's the reality, because they're doing what? What are the Iranians trying to do? They're trying to hide as many of those launchers so they can preserve capability. They're moving their drones around for the same reason, so they can preserve capability. We've knocked out pretty much all of their big ships, but the small boats are real. Even though they're smaller, they can impact the Straits of Hormuz, and they're hiding those. And every time they try to use them, we kill them. So our challenge over the next few weeks is identifying targets, and we have to keep complete surveillance. We own the airspace, so we're constantly surveilling day and night. When we identify, we destroy. There's no problem in executing destruction. The challenge is identifying. But this is about vigilance. This is about discipline. This is about our capability. We're good at it. I'm just saying that it's more challenging towards the end than it was in the beginning.
So, General, when you look at our allies, I understand this is our mission. If you want to say that they weren't briefed, someone could debate that. What I find offensive is that Austria, Italy, some limitations in France, and the UK, slow to come around, are saying you can't use the bases that we finance in order to launch this operation. Do you find that disappointing?
Disappointing? That's not strong enough. It's outrageous. I mean, here we are doing something that's in our national interest, in the interest of allies in the region, to be sure, but in the world's interest. I mean, the world economy depends on a distribution of oil out of the Middle East. Everybody knows that. So the benefit that comes from pushing back the #1 predator for almost 5 decades, Iran, and taking away their capability, everybody benefits from that. And the fact that they take such a narrow view of this, I mean, the president has a right to be furious over the fact that France will not let us fly over their airspace, that Italy and Germany and Spain are not letting us.
It's outrageous.
These are bases there. These are U.S. bases and not letting us use our own U.S. bases to support the war. What are they thinking?
All right. General George is now out, was asked to retire yesterday. He's a personal friend of yours. What do we lose when we lose General George?
He's a generational chief of staff, as far as I'm concerned. I haven't seen anybody quite like him. He's got the intelligence, he's got the discipline, his warfighting experience is enormous. He's got the warrior ethos, and he's transforming the Army and taking it into the new technology and warfare that is so changing.
Right.
The truth is he's leading the other services in most of all of that.
Right.
And I don't agree with his dismissal for sure, because of what he's doing to the Army and the change it's impacting the department writ large.
That's what I've heard too. General, it was great to see you. Good luck at the Yankee game today and keeping up with everything. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, great being here.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah. Do you remember about a week ago, there was a story that came out that Pete Hegseth would not give promotions to, I think, 2 Black soldiers and 2 women. They were all supposed to become 1-star generals. And Pete Hegseth pulled their promotions. That's what he did. All of them were, the 2 women and the 2 Black men were supposed to become 1-star generals. Yeah. So they're not going to become that, not unless somebody comes into power and they give them their promotions. But they're not getting them, at least for now. Yeah, it is messed up. It is. And Pete Hegseth, his ass got thrown out of the military. That's why, Donald Trump talk all that DEI crap, and then he puts the most incompetent people in his cabinet. I mean, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Pete Hegseth was a damn host on Fox News. What the hell does he know about running a defense department or war strategies? I mean, come on. That is ridiculous. You're so busy calling everybody else incompetent, you're incompetent. So anyway, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. I want to thank Curly Locks 2129. Happy Passover, Elisa Cabrera and family. Well, happy Passover to you too. And thank you for your support for my channel. So y'all have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat. And if you're doing Passover, happy Passover. So I will see you later. I do have one more live coming up. And I will see you then. Shalom, family.